Hey kids, it's Old Man shouting at clouds, and now with others too. Chatting about the CFL is what they're going to do. Some have no contacts and others have no clues. Everyone will tell us all their quirky football views. Hear what Old Man and others know. It's the CFL Outsiders show.
Hey GT, what are we going to do this week?
Same thing we do every week, old man. Take over the CFL.
Hey kids, welcome back to the penultimate episode of the CFL Outsiders for 2025. I remain, as always, your 100% unbiased, completely impartial, and frankly, likely happiest member of the CFL Outsiders, Old Man shouting at clouds. Joining me, as usual, is GT.
Hey, everyone. A little more somber to start the show, and then we'll relax and get into it later on.
Okay. And MJ.
My pain is immeasurable, but I'm happy to be here.
Yes, 2 weekends in a row has got to be a little bit tough for you. Not a good Saturday for the Jays 2 weeks ago, and now this one. But before we go on with anything, breaking news. This just came out literally before we hit the air. The CFL has announced, Stuart Johnson had said that there would be further changes coming. They've announced the next change that will happen. It says, what I've got here is, starting in 2027, the CFL will be moving to an enhanced 3-down rule set. This innovation will be called the 3-down plus football. In essence, the offense will still have 3 downs to get 10 yards and earn a first down. However, with this change, which will encourage offense and scoring output, if an offense is unable to gain the necessary 10 yards in the first 2 downs, they will be awarded a bonus attempt to gain yards before punting on 3rd down. This is not an extra down. It is an innovative change that retains the core 3-down nature of Canadian football while appealing to a wider audience. No, it's all me. They didn't do that at all. I couldn't resist.
I was wondering which day of which month it was.
Yeah.
I know, I was like, it's not April 1st.
No, I couldn't resist it, though, with all the stuff going on. That's all me. Let's go on to the real show, the non-fake news. Conference MVPs, you wanted to talk about this a bit, GT.
Well, yes, I did. And this is the somber part of the show that I wanted to talk about initially, because as you can see, I'm wearing my poppy. Today is Remembrance Day. It, for me, is a very special day. I think it's one of our most important days on the calendar, and that we should all take a moment to reflect on how important this is. And part of that goes to the story of some things that we don't think about during football are important, and is that is the guys that actually played the game during the wars and left from the league to go overseas, and a lot of them never came back. And I wanted to just take a moment and talk about, and say we should not forget, as they say, lest we forget. And it is that important. And I wanted to just take a moment and talk about that. Part of that is as well you titled it the conference MVPs, but it's not about the MVPs. It's about the trophies for the MVPs. And I say MVPs because the trophy was originally designated for each conference, a conference MVP in each side, so East and West. And that was before they changed the designation to MOP. I believe they are still called the conference MVP trophies. The first one I want to talk about tonight is actually the Western Conference trophy. And most people don't even know these exist. Some of the players don't even know these exist until they're handed them at the end of the year. So we know Nathan Rourke is the MOP candidate, but that also makes him the Western Conference MVP trophy winner, which is named the Jeff Nicklin Memorial Trophy. Let me tell you a bit about Jeff Nicklin. Jeff Nicklin was born in 1912. He then played for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He was born in Winnipeg and played for the Bombers. Actually, it was 1914. I apologize, not 1912. He was born in 1914. He played for the Bombers from 1934 through 1940. In that time, he won a Grey Cup in 1935 with the Bombers, which were the first Western team to win a Grey Cup. So that's significant in its own right. He is a member of that team. This is his football playing career, by the way. He then played in 2 more Grey Cups, both in 1937 and in 1938, and was a Western All-Star at 2 different positions in 1937, 1938, and 1939. When war broke out, he enlisted as a private, and then rose through the entire ranks to become a lieutenant colonel. And yes, I'm pronouncing that right. In Canada, we have lieutenants, I should say. Pardon my stumble. It's lieutenant. It's not lieutenant. Lieutenant is American. Lieutenant is Canadian and British. That's the system we have to this day. So it is lieutenant colonel, and he rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel where in the 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion. He was one of the very first people to jump out of the airplane for Canada on D-Day. He led the battalion in the Battle of the Bulge, which is generally known as an American battle, but also we took part in as well, and he led the battalion in that. He also led the battalion during Operation Varsity, which is aptly named in his case, which was deep in German territory in Germany. And that was in March of 1945, where unfortunately he was killed in action. And so he never returned from the war to come back to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, where he is enshrined, I believe, in their Hall of Fame, and since then has had the trophy named after him. The only other interesting tie between the 2 sides of his career was he was also a member of the Canadian Army team that played the American Army team in London during the Second World War. A lot of people don't even know that game existed. It was dubbed the T-Bowl, which Canada won 16-6, and actually he scored the final touchdown in that game as well. So his fingerprints are all over the Canadian, both military and Canadian football history. And that is why the Western Conference MVP title and trophy is awarded to the Jeff Nicklin Memorial Trophy. So I thought I would bring that up. That's, I thought, important for a lot of us on a day like today to tie the 2 memories of our favorite game. And one of the most important things we can do is remember those who gave their lives for us to be able to watch our favorite game still to this day. I would like to briefly touch on the other side because it's equally important, of course, the Eastern Conference. And this gentleman, I think we Oldman, you and I know more about. MJ, you may not remember him, but you might. This is the Terry Evesham Memorial Award for the Eastern Conference Most Valuable Player, or the MOP, which in this case, this year, again, is Bo Levi. So if you don't know who he was, he played in the CFL, and I remember him playing. I remember watching Terry Evesham. And he played 13 seasons from 1965 to 1978. He was drafted originally by Montreal, but played for the Alouettes, the Stampeders, the Ticats, and the Argos. He played 198 games and had 80 touchdowns. He was the Eastern Rookie of the Year in 1965. He was the most outstanding Canadian in 1967 and in 1971. He won the Grey Cup in 1970. He's a Hall of Famer inducted in 1970, 3-time Eastern All-Star, 3-time Western All-Star. And in 1988, he was involved in a car accident where his vehicle was T-boned and was hit so badly that they thought he was going to die. So close to death was he that they called a priest to perform the last rites. He then recovered enough, but spent time in a coma while he was recovering and came out of the coma a month later, but with absolutely no memory of his life up into that stage. He had to relearn his entire life, but he still can't remember it. Whenever he has to go on and talk about his life prior to the accident, he actually carries cue cards to remember those things so that he can talk about them. Because even once he speaks about it, he forgets it again. He has since then gone on to become a motivational speaker, and to this day still is a motivational speaker, I believe, and talks about perseverance, overcoming obstacles, and so on and so forth. And actually, both where the accident occurred and where he lives now is just north of me here in outside of Oshawa, on the eastern part of the GTA. So if you have never seen Terry Evanson, go back and watch some of the film of him. He was a tremendous receiver. And again, we don't think of those rewards, and there's some of the things that I just thought I would mention because we don't think that those guys actually get a trophy, but they do. And I thought I would bring up just who those trophies were named after, and particularly, again, to Jeff Nicklin, based on today being Remembrance Day.
Okay, well,
Sorry for taking
thank
so
you.
long, but I thought it was important.
Thank
No,
you.
that is well worth talking about, GT. Thank you very much. And I'm sure both of those fellows have probably Wikipedia pages telling us even more about them. I will try to find those and put them up on the show notes if anybody wants to dig further into the story. Terry Evanson I knew a little bit about. I didn't know about his accident or anything. And the other fellow, you said it was Jake Nicholden?
Jeff Nicklin.
Jeff Nicklin. Okay.
Yes.
I will look that up. Frankly, I'd never heard about that before. And I've been around this game a long time. So thank you very much. Anything to add, MJ, or do we?
Oh,
go ahead.
no. Thank you for sharing. That was really great. I appreciated it.
That was the somber part. Now we can talk about some of the other shenanigans of the week.
The weirdness and the fun for some people and pain and anguish for others. But
Yes.
We're not going to get to that quite just yet because MJ was going to mention that there's been a development with the CFL and the Olympics.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know how much we need to talk about it, but just a quick note that the CFL this week has approved for players to play for the flag football in the Olympics. They did a really nice promo shot. If you've seen it, if not, go look at it. It has the two Philpott brothers with a Canada flag. And I was like, oh it looks
nice,
great. Yeah. So there was just like the Players Association's like, well, we'll see. Player safety is paramount, and I'm not sure how many teams are going to want to release players to go. But first step, the CFL's allowed it. Second step, I mean, flag football's got to qualify. So Canada's still got work to do.
Yeah. And that comes up at the next tournament, I believe. Does it not? The one in Europe?
Yes. In the springtime, that's, I think they even call it the World Cup, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. And I think it's the top 5 or 6 out of that go or something. So fingers crossed. All right. Other than that, there's not a lot of news. We missed this one by maybe 10 hours last week. We'd no sooner finished recording and I woke up to do the editing and there was the big news about Ryan Dinwiddie. So I don't know that we have to talk about this a whole lot. It's basically, if anybody hasn't heard, as the boys on 3 Down Nation had suggested was possible, last week there was probably one of the biggest shocks in CFL history as it turned out that Ryan Dinwiddie left the Toronto Argonauts and signed as head coach and GM with Ottawa. And since that's come out, there's been a little bit of talk about whether or not he should have given the Argos a chance to respond to the offer. I personally think that would have been just basically trying to shop the offer for big money. I respect the fact that he got the offer he wanted and took it and had it on. Any thoughts on that? I know it's been talked to death, but anything that you guys feel like you can add at this point?
Go ahead, MJ, if you got some.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have just a couple things. First of all, Ryan's like spilling some tea about the Argos. He, if you listen to the 3 Down Nation did an interview with him, and he said that he is going to be head general manager, head coach, and offensive coordinator in Ottawa, and it will still be less work than what he did in Toronto. So that's quite, what are Pinball and John Murphy up to there? I'm not quite sure. But also that just the promo picture of him, he was looking rough in the Argos picture. He just looked terrible. He looks so good. His voice, he sounds so calm. He sounds happy. And I can't see a world in which he would have even entertained letting the Argos counter offer. He was so happy to get out of there and just go. And so I hope he does well because he's agreed to live in Ottawa full time year round. And he just seems really happy. And so that's good news for Ryan and good news for the Redblacks.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I'll give him that. He commits to stuff. And And Lord knows he's a heck of a coach. It'll be interesting to see who he gets into for quarterbacks, and does he stick with Brown? Do they look elsewhere? Who knows? Anything else? Otherwise I'm going to jump on to the second part of that story, which is that on Monday, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers gave Mike O'Shea permission to talk to the Argos. And any thoughts on that? And if he's going there, or if not, any thoughts on who else might go there?
Well, I just wanted to jump back to Dinwiddie for a moment, because I thought his comment about not giving the Argos not offering him a contract. From the Argos' point of view, he was or an extension, I should say. From the Argos' point of view, he was under contract. I'm pretty sure they probably didn't expect it to move this fast, so they may well have been prepared to offer him an extension. They just never even got the opportunity because, as you said, old man, he did the right thing. He didn't shop. Having been in business enough and had employees come shopping to me, I never liked it, and I only had to do it once where I had to meet. Otherwise, I always let them walk, because if that's the case, they're not really happy anyways. You might as well let them go. Once he got the permission, the Argos gave him permission. I'm not surprised. So I think some people are misreading that to some extent. The Argos also immediately, whether it wasn't Pinball that wrote it, obviously, but it was Pinball that signed it, sent out an email to all of their season ticket subscribers, including myself, with a very nice note saying, we wish Ryan all the best. He was great for us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, the new search for a new coach, the next winning coach of the Argos has already begun. They worded it really well. It was a very well written PR example. So that I don't think has come up in the conversations that we've had since then. And one of the things that has happened recently with MLSE is that they've made this decision within all of their organizations almost, where they've released the person that seems to be the straw while maintaining the drink itself. So in this case, it's Ryan Dinwiddie, who was the person that made, as he says, a lot of the decisions and was doing a lot of the stuff behind the scenes that was important. But the face or the drink itself is Pinball, who is what they say they made the decision to keep. In the case of the Maple Leafs, I know many fans that say they made the wrong decision when they kept Marner, or they traded Marner and kept the current captain who shouldn't even be the captain, according to some people. So again, they made the wrong decision, but the public face, that's who they wanted to keep. That's who they're more worried about. There is a lot of people talking about the same thing may happen with the Blue Jays. If they let Bo Bichette walk, they may well do the same thing, that he's the guy that lines it all up and keeps that team going in reality. And yet they're going to not give him the money, possibly, and let the face be Guerrero. So, and on the basketball side, they did the same thing, although they kind of went the opposite direction. But they did the same thing a year ago with Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam. So it just seems to be a pattern that MLSE is following right now with their sports enterprises. So while the Argos are the least of their concerns, they followed their pattern, at least, in doing that. Now it'll be interesting to see who they move to going forward, as you just talked about, and whether that is someone that is likable, wants to, and is liked by both the fans and the league, or whether it's somebody that is just a figurehead for the team that no one will like. So that's yet to be decided.
Yes. Yeah. And what do you think the chances of O'Shea going are, MJ? Is he going to leave or stay in Winnipeg?
I don't know who would walk into that. Who wants to walk into that mess? I think O'Shea's smarter than that. I would hope he's smarter than that.
Well, I understand that they're promising the new coach at least 2 assistant coaches and a digital personal assistant.
Oh, you are in a mood tonight, aren't you?
You are.
I am in a mood
I was
tonight.
like, I don't even know how to respond.
Look, one win in how many, one playoff win in how long, and all of a sudden they're all cocky. All of a sudden they're all cocky. One win and they're all cocky. Yeah. Yeah. Flat level. Gotta love them.
I think that dealing with Pinball and John Murphy is gonna be a nightmare for whoever walks in there. Let's just be honest. The name Chris Jones is floating around, but I don't see him coming in unless he has a GM position. So I'm not quite sure if that's actually if that's real or not. But I mean, the CFL is a small league. Everyone knows, right? Everyone knows. Toronto was full of locker room drama, full of PR drama for the last couple of seasons. You feel like Ryan was kind of just trying to hold on, and it kind of boiled. He boiled over this year, and he's just had enough, and he's out. He would the fact that he wouldn't even let them counter, and he was just like, "I am gone. I'm out. I'm gone." So whoever walks into that it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I could see Chris Jones taking it just to get back in the league. I could see him taking it. And, he carries a long knife, so he would be more than willing to take it and stab somebody else. He's done it before. He'll do it again. So I would not be surprised at that. It's interesting that, as you put it, MJ, a lot of people wouldn't want to go there and deal with Pinball and John Murphy. And the Argos are getting cast as the bad guys, the black hats, while Ryan Dinwiddie is wearing this wonderful white suit, and everybody's in love with Ryan Dinwiddie all of a sudden, and he's the champion that rode on the white horse out of town. Well, what happens if he takes everybody's favorite quarterback with him? How does that change your opinion of him? How does that change your opinion of where he went? How does that change your opinion of one organization versus the other if they did the deal to change quarterbacks again like they did a few years ago? So all of a sudden, does that mean the black hat moves to Ottawa and the white hat moves back into the good ship Argos? I mean, I don't think we can just necessarily say this was as cut and dry as it looks like today. This has got lots of permutations yet to go until it's finally figured out. And yes, I agree with you that the Argos are a bit of a mess, and they're going to be a bit of a mess for quite a while by the looks of it. But I don't think necessarily that this is all said and done. But Chris Jones is the person I alluded to. I don't think anybody would be happy here if he came in. I think that would be a horrible PR move for the team, and I think it would be a horrible PR move for the fans. I don't think anybody would be happy with that. And I think there would be a bunch of people that said, that's enough. I'm done with it. And that might include me. If they hire Chris Jones, that might include me as being, I might move my tickets down the QEW to the Ticats instead.
Yeah, like you said, it'll be interesting to see because frankly, I mean, I was joking around, but from what they're saying about the money that MLSC is willing to put into the Argos, I don't know that any established coach is going to want to go there. So they may be looking at pulling somebody off the scrap heap, somebody that hasn't been coaching in the league for a while, maybe Kahari Jones, something like that. Maybe they go with it. Yeah, but I'm just saying what's available. And if O'Shea is not interested, and who knows, maybe he would be, even when everybody talks about it, such a dumpster fire in that he's got such connections with that team. He's from Ontario, so he could go. And if he goes, then I think that opens up a lot of other possibilities around the league for people that are expecting to become head coaches. There's been talk about Noel Thorpe out of Montreal is ready for another head coaching attempt. There's been talk about Munson out of Hamilton, although frankly, after this weekend, I don't know why. And there's been a lot of talk about Mueller as the OC in Saskatchewan, and he has said he's only really interested if he's going somewhere that he feels like he's got a chance to build an organization. So Winnipeg might be that, whereas I don't think Toronto would be. So who knows? And if none of the above, then Chris Jones. The 3 down boys called the Dinwiddie move before it happened, and I thought they were insane. And they're the ones that are saying that rumors are if it's not O'Shea, it'll be Jones. At least it'll give me something new to hate in the CFL next year. I'm not sure on those things anyway, but okay. Next story here. Again, this is really just, it's kind of a somber thing, but it's pathetic that this is where society's got to. The story came out that after the Riders lost to the Lions, they didn't say who, but they've said the spouse of one of the Lions got a death threat on social media or direct message or whatnot. Nothing really about what it is. Nathan Rourke said he thought it was from not a mad Saskatchewan fan or mad BC fan, but a Saskatchewan fan, which I thought was the kind of speculation that doesn't really help. I don't think he helped his reputation with that, but it's kind of ridiculous when a game turns into something where people are actually making death threats. Just wanted to get your thoughts on it at all.
I mean, yeah, what can you say? This is just, it is absolutely, unfortunately, the world we shouldn't live in, and yet we do live in, between social media, between extremism, between fanaticism of sports teams, and between gambling, add it all together, and these things happen. And why would it be against a player's spouse? Why wouldn't it be against the player, if anything? On top of that, that's even beyond the beyond. So, yeah, it's just sad, and sad.
Some people need to just delete their gambling apps, delete their socials, and go touch grass. This happened with the Blue Jays. There's 3 Blue Jays during this World Series run that got death threats. Actually, Trey Savage's family got death threats. So, I mean, it's just sports, guys. It's just sports. This is not real life in a real sense of the world. Like, it's sports. If this all just stopped tomorrow, we would all just go on with our lives. So, I mean, just put your phone down.
Yeah.
Well,
And I think, I don't know because it's speculation, but I think you're probably onto something there, which other people have pointed out. Very good chance it was driven by somebody gambling that lost a lot of money and needed to vent. And that sort of questions the whole thing about, how tightly all the modern sports are tying themselves to the gambling world.
Every time I watch things, there's a betting line on the bottom of my screen. Things are presented by FanDuel, DraftKings. Look what's happening in the MLB and the NBA right now with players and coaches getting arrested for fixing things. And it's out of control. It's out of control.
And every time there's a story about it in the news, they will then go to commercial break, and the commercial's for a gambling site.
Yeah.
It's just, they can't even take themselves away from it anymore. It's ludicrous. Yeah. It really is.
Well, I know I was listening to Oz, and it wasn't Joe. They had a guest scout from the elk herd. It was their guest on the Rouge, White, and Blue last night, but they were talking about it from the U.S. perspective. And Oz was saying they get a lot of coverage in the U.S. A lot of people are interested in the playoffs and the Grey Cup because they can get their full betting rights on it. But in the early season, he said they get a lot of people watching from June until late August when college and NFL starts. But he says it gets limited because the odds makers down there don't give anything other than your straight game odds.
Right.
Your points and that. There's no prop bets or anything, and that's what the players want. So he's saying if they can work with the bookmakers down in the States to get a lot more of that, they may pick up a lot more viewership, at least through the first half of the season. But again, if that's how, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. Maybe because I'm not a gambler.
Yeah, again, it walks a fine line with these ads because it's a vice that shouldn't necessarily and is that shouldn't necessarily be allowed to be on television, but we've allowed, in advertisement, but we've allowed so many other vices to be advertised that how do you say no to it? And at the same time, it's legal. The government has legalized it. So you've almost got to allow it. The only thing that they don't allow anymore is tobacco still. That's the only one that they won't allow advertising for. But alcohol is certainly allowed to be advertised. I don't think there's any cannabis yet, but I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised at that. And yeah, it's one of those vices that we've made legal. They want the tax dollars, but in the meantime, I don't think they should at least be limited somehow as to when they're allowed to advertise or how they're allowed to advertise.
Yeah, I figure the fact that every third ad one of those companies puts out is an ad about how to make sure you don't let gambling ruin your life and how to play within your means, and they have to give that instructions on ads tells you something that. But anyway, We're not going to solve the world's problems here tonight. Let's move on. Let's see if I can try something here that I've been working on, because I thought at the start of the season we'd done a bunch of predictions about who would be in the Grey Cup and whatnot, and I had trouble finding that. But I did find during my search that we did a show about how the teams would end up, and we made certain comments and certain predictions with stuff. So I figure I'll just throw these out here one at a time if I can make this work, and then whoever is the appropriate one will let respond. And the first one here I've got is a clip of GT talking about the Redblacks in the East Division. So I'm going to do this.
Oh, no.
So here we go.
Oh, no.
Try to do this now.
Oh, yeah,
Come
sure.
on.
Set me up first. I think they're going to be really good, and I think they're going to challenge. But as we said, it's going to be a knife fight and a bloodbath every single game in that division. And any one of those three teams is going to end up from, first to third. And Hamilton is going to be, again, I think that they could be second to fourth, but I think they'll be fourth. Montreal to finish first. I remember that much. I think, and then I think, as I said, everybody else was second to fourth. I still think that was right. Yeah. And I think I did say, if I remember correctly, I did say this team would go as far as Drew Brown carries them.
Yes, so, you did say that earlier in the thing.
So that was a large portion of their issues, whether he was playing or not. So not too bad.
Yes. This would be MJ and talking about the Argos here.
Oh, well, I don't want to pump the Argos tires, but I will say Ryan Dinwiddie can make something out of nothing. Just something out of nothing. Just infuriatingly good. And their quarterback situation, I think Kelly's on a very short leash for behavior-wise, and I think that they're not going to handle another black eye this year, and he's been warned.
Well, I maintain Chad Kelly did get benched over disciplinary issues. And Ryan did make a little something out of nothing, because until Nick got hurt, they had just started Nick and let him off the leash right at the beginning. They would have had no problem.
Yeah, that is very much true. I've got to agree with that now. I think it's time that we go to one of mine. Where do we have here? Well, since we were talking the Argos, this is me on the Argos. I don't know, but I do know Dinwiddie is a hell of a coach who finds a way to win. He'll find a way to use what he's got, so they will be right in the thick of it. I figure they'll be second or third, depending on how it rolls out with it. Okay, well, technically they were third, and I did say that, but they weren't exactly right in the thick of it either. And like MJ, I had just a little too much faith in what Coach Dinwiddie could do. So there was that one. We've got a couple more I'm going to try anyway. What the heck? Keep going with this a little bit. Let's see who should we have here? GT on Trevor Harris. Saskatchewan is a really solid team this year. I really do. I just don't think again Trevor Harris can play 2 playoff games in a row. 100%. So you're sticking with that then? 100%. Okay. Just, I would say there's a chance that he didn't really play a good playoff game already. That wasn't the most impressive offense there. So
I wouldn't.
We're hoping his one game is still there.
I wouldn't disagree with you on that. I don't. Yeah. No. Anyway.
Exactly. Okay. So now we'll go with. Let's see. What do we have here? MJ on the Owls.
You just never count them out, can you? Davis Alexander, we'll see. He looked good last year. Whether he can carry a team as this number 1 starter, and whether it'll come down to whether he can handle the pressure of being the number 1 starter, and whether McLeod Bethel Thompson can just play football instead of shooting his mouth off and getting fined. One of my hot takes that I said on Blue Sky was that McLeod Bethel Thompson's going to get suspended 1 game because he's going to take it too far this year. I just... So we'll see. I don't think Jason Moss is going to have he's not going to put up with it for very much. So we'll see. Phil Pott looks good. Like I said, Marc-Antoine Dequoy is going to anchor their defense. Looks good. And see you in the finals, Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, MBT did not get suspended, but the rest is true.
But he had an elbow injury.
But he had an elbow injury that kept him off the field.
Yes. Oh, the things that.
And apparently he was punching walls or something.
Yes, he was having temper tantrums as he does. So.
Yes. Apparently throwing the helmet and whatnot. So now let's try this one here, which is me talking about MBT. McLeod Bethel-Thompson is a starting caliber quarterback. He's an upgrade over Cody Fajardo, in my opinion. And I think that if Edmonton had a defense last year, they would have been well within the playoffs. He's got a defense behind him. I see it as nothing but upside with Alexander. And if somehow he does struggle and they start getting in a point of seriously looking like they might get knocked out of the playoffs, they'll go to MBT and it'll be done. Okay, so I'm not the quarterback whisperer. I had far more faith in MBT than was deserved this season.
You didn't have to sit at Commonwealth, that's why.
Yeah. MBT is a starting quality quarterback, Lord. How 5 or 6 months can change something. Let's see if I can find one more to do here that looked like it was kind of fun. What else do I have here? Here's one for GT on a real quick one on the Elks defense. They have a first-year defensive coordinator.
Sure, right?
Yeah, he was a linebacker coach last year. How does he call a full defense? That's the only question there. I'm not saying it won't be good, but it's an unknown quantity.
All right, sorry, I have one more Elks thing I forgot to mention.
Here's how you call that defense. Boys, go play.
Yeah, okay.
Eventually, that's what they did, I think.
Eventually. It just took all season.
But it took us longer than we all thought to get there, I think. I think we all kind of expected that defense to be a little bit slower off the start, but then let it go, then get there sooner than it took them to get to the point that they did. Also, they had a ton of injuries on that defensive line that didn't help all that signings. It'll just be the most interesting part, I think, now is what's that defense look like next year? You know, with free agency and decisions they have to make and the cap and so on and so forth. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like next year. I will say, I thought we all looked pretty good that must have been like the second or third episode in at best. And we looked like we knew what we were talking about almost, you know?
We've been faking it well all season. Yes, there were a couple more, but it's not working quite as well technically as I wanted, and I do need to see if this how this works how that integrates into the clips here once I get it done. Maybe the folks out there will never see this part, but we'll give it a try. If I can make it work better, who knows? There are a couple more that maybe we'll do next week and go over. But for now, we'll stop there.
Thing where we were like, is there someone going to pass for 5,000 yards? Who's going to suck? Didn't we do a whole prediction thing like that?
Oh, right. We did
we played that game.
We played a game.
Futures game.
Yeah.
If I can figure out how to make this work better, then we'll do that next week. I'll take the time to clip out those and do it. Okay. But let's move on to what we're really here to talk about, the football games of this weekend. And I got to say, the first weekend was good. Winnipeg at least came back for about 6 minutes in the game and made it an interesting game till the end of it. The BC-Calgary one went down to the last few seconds, basically, and BC pulling that one off. And this weekend was an upgrade even over that. I mean, not everyone's happy with the results, but as far as entertainment goes, you cannot complain about this weekend. So we started out up in the East, where Montreal, even though being on the road and the second place team were actually the points favorite. I believe they were a 3.5 point favorite over Hamilton, and they took it 19-16. So, MJ, give us the full fan experience of that game.
Yes. Well, I was mad at the Ticats, and then blackout happened. The game sold out. It's blackout. They did a lot of promo videos with former players, like Simone did a promo video. Speedy D He did a promo. They had Max from their Kells that did a promo about wearing black for blackout. And I was like, maybe I will be a bit excited. And then at the start of the game, before the game, they had Simone Lawrence come out on the field with a sledgehammer, and the bagpipes were playing Thunderstruck, and a Lancaster's flying overhead, and the stands are full. And I was like, it's playoffs. I'm so excited now. They kept up. They kept up. I was expecting Montreal. I think they say Montreal averages 30 points a game. No. So Montreal happened. I think that's just Davis Alexander. He was chirping he and Simone were chirping before the game at each other when Simone was out there with his sledgehammer. He's out there practicing before the game in his white tank top. Cold does not bother Alexander. He took a misconduct penalty. He's chirping at the fans. This guy is just a guy you love to hate, but as we talked about, he can back it up. He can chirp all he wants because he backs it up. But the Montreal came in and they're like, I'll say this about Montreal. They're infuriating because they're in my division, but this team has built a culture. And they've built it up around a fan base. So this year, like all year long, they've done social media videos where the players speak a phrase in French, and then they have all the players say it, and they post on their socials. And some players are getting it, some are not. But they're building culture and they're building a rapport with fans, and it's a whole ecosystem there, and I think that players really buy in, and the players have clearly bought into that, and they're just trucking along. Hamilton, so a few things, like it was close at the half, right? Like it was close, and then Hamilton, like the defenses were spot on. Hamilton couldn't get their run game going. I mean, even Montreal didn't have a huge run game going, except for Alexander, who rushed for 64 yards until he wrecked his hamstring, which apparently Jason Moss said he's been dealing with that since training camp. So this isn't new. Alexander with one leg can still beat the number one team from the East on a game day. There's some things in here. It came off so Moxie for the Ticats DB, he was out with a personal matter, and White was in there and against Philpott. And I was really concerned that they were going to target Philpott all day, and they didn't. They only sent a ball for him 7 times, and I was actually quite surprised. So either that wasn't panning out, or White was actually doing a good job over there. So, and then we need to talk about Murray on the Ticats. This guy, the Ticats, Greg Bell had a beautiful return, and they were set up down on our Alouette side of the half, and Murray takes a roughing penalty, 15 yards, fine, great. That just kind of happens. Then he takes off his helmet and he throws it right in front of an official, and he got 25 yards. And then, yeah.
Which is almost inexcusable, but if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in here because there's a couple.
I was going to there too.
Okay, well, let me go, and then you can can agree with me or disagree if you want, because I've heard everybody talking about the fact that was inexcusable on his part, and I agree. You've got to hold your temper, but the circumstances of that penalty, it was an ongoing play. The idea, to me, of that unnecessary roughness is you don't want somebody who's far away from the play suddenly getting run up and run over when it doesn't affect the play, because you don't want injuries. He didn't run up and hit Sankey late. He had a block on Sankey and was driving him back way off the play. And yes, so it was way far away from the play. And he kept driving it through. The whistle might have gone. I didn't hear, but even if the whistle went gone, then Sankey went down and he got called for unnecessary roughness. So if that's a penalty, that's a penalty. I get that. But as far as him losing his top, to me, it's a player going from, oh my God, did you see what I just did to one of the best linebackers in the league, to what? I'm 15 yards and your head blows up. You can't let it happen. But to me, it wasn't as selfish and ridiculous a penalty as everybody's saying. I can understand how that happens.
Yeah.
Disagree, GT, or you got a different take?
No, I thought a couple of things. First of all, I thought the initial penalty was a really weak call. That, in fact, he never threw Sankey to the ground. He simply pushed him and Sankey fell down. He was blocking well ahead of the player behind him that was making the play. So he didn't know what the play was behind him. He was just continuing his block, as you said. And they actually did touch on that on the broadcast, but they didn't spend a lot of time on it. They never showed a close-up of what was going on between him and Sankey. I guarantee you Sankey was saying something to him at the same time and smacking him back at the same time. And so if he even gave him an extra push, they didn't show it in the highlights that I saw. It was just a push to the ground at the end of the play. And then he got flagged for what he thought was a weak call. And I thought it was a weak call. But then when he threw his helmet down, that was not inexcusable, but it was certainly not, I don't know what the word is, but certainly not a very smart thing to do. So it was deserved. It was an automatic penalty. It was going to happen. I just thought the first penalty that drew the second penalty was a weak call, and it shouldn't have been called to begin with. And that's obvious. And that's obviously how he felt about it as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm basically saying. It's not acceptable, but I can understand how it happened. You've got to learn from that and never let it go on as well. Yeah. And the other point I'll make quickly is it was the next time that Hamilton was out on offense that there was a play, I believe it was to Bell, who Sankey came running up and stuffed him at the goal line, and the whistle went, and Sankey ran him back 10 yards and threw him to the ground, and the play went on. So different rules apparently for offense and defense.
Yeah, and again, Sankey's one of those guys that I said even just a few weeks ago on our podcast that I've begun to think he plays a little bit over the line, and he will draw penalties for that. And I think he did in that case,
Okay. Sorry, we interrupted your flow there, MJ.
No, please interrupt. I'm just
back to our original programming.
Yeah. No, but then when he's throwing his helmet, you can see they showed Bell in the background yelling, no. He's like, no! Like, you could just see his, like, no. And then, and they went over and just showed Murray having his meltdown on the sidelines. Then he had to, like, get out on the next play. And then, at the end of the game, they showed Murray crying on the sideline.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he just felt it was his fault because they were in the red zone and they got marched back and came back and got a field goal, but never really recovered from that. So that sucks. Speaking of other...
I'm just picturing him, if I can say, reaching for the helmet and Bell in the background in slow motion. No!
Yeah, just no! Don't do it! Speaking of other Montreal Alouette players who were being shady, Dylan Wynn. So this is interesting because this got called in the NFL all week as a penalty. All week it got called as a penalty, and he did a pelvic thrust. And the NFL has been flagging that, and he did it. And me and my husband and my son are all watching. We're like, we all know this got called all week in the NFL. Nothing. Just let him do it, and then off they went. So I was like, okay. Well then.
Well, yeah, I saw that, and I was like, okay, that's new. I have no idea about the NFL thing. But I thought, okay, that's new. That's interesting as a move. And I guess it's a big FU to, I guess is what it's supposed to mean. I don't know what else it's supposed to mean. The difference between the two leagues has long been things that we can get away with in celebration. The NFL doesn't allow, hence the no fun league rule, right?
Yeah.
That one's a little rude. You can flag that.
Yeah, that one's a little rude.
And then there was so speaking of like defenses, like Stavros leveled Sneed, but Sneed hung on. I thought he was gonna die.
Yeah, that was a hell of a play all the way around. All the way around. That was a play.
Yeah. That one was wild. And then Sneed, like alone in the end zone by himself. The Ticats coverage broke down, and like he was by himself in the end zone for a touchdown, right? Like so, he had a really good game. The Ticats. Oh, what is with O linemen and their need to catch balls? So the Ticats had a complete breakdown on a flea flicker. And the O-line guy caught it for a -6 on the play. He should have just let it drop, but he just couldn't help himself. It was
2
great.
weeks in a
I
row.
was
Big white cap.
excited for a second till I realized what the implications were, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The play there was just to slap it to the ground, but in the heat of the moment,
He's going to be a star, right? He's just like, I'm going to turn into a running back and just go.
yeah. Suddenly the lineman becomes 7 years old in the playground again and a chance to catch.
And then, I mean, the big drama here is that the game was tied. And the Ticats are in the red zone, and it is 3rd and 3. And they go for the field goal. And I was so upset at Scott. I was so upset. This isn't just a regular season game. This is like Grey Cup or go home, right? Like, I think you just need a little more. Anyway, I was pretty upset. Maybe that's just the Ticat fan of me, but I was not happy that they settled for 3 when they should have gone for 7. But, I mean, Bo and his receivers were having some trouble all day long, so maybe Scott didn't trust them to throw it. I don't know. I don't know. And then, I mean, what else do I have? Maltos walk-off field goal. What? And, this clip's going viral. Like, it's going everywhere. He was, like, just so overcome with emotion after that field goal. He was, like, crying, kneeling down on the field, just sobbing, and, like, his coach runs over and they're hugging, and my team lost, but that was really nice to see. And then Stavros and Casatonis were again Stavros and Dequoy were hugging after the game with each other, and like that. These are things I love about the CFL. And I want to know where Alexander got his built-in hand warmer jersey because I want one of those.
CFL styling.
I love that. I was like, whoa! Imagine if Doug Flutie had a built-in hand warmer jersey.
Yeah. Well, the thing is first 2 things. On that field goal, I thought to myself when that happened, I remember last year, I can't even remember who they had as the kicker who got hurt. And Maltos came in, and I know he'd bounced around the league to some practice rosters and that. And I thought, well, gosh, I just hope he can keep them in it until the kicker gets back. I had no idea the talent on that man. And apparently they say the country of Mexico is very popular in Montreal right now because you have Mr. Maltos Diaz, and I guess the Montreal Caravan have a first-year quarterback. If I remember right, the name is Pepe Gonzalez out of Mexico, who's taking them to, well, they're playing next week for whatever the Atlantic-Quebec playoff is, and that's 1 game from there to the Vanier Cup, so they're quite happy with him, too. Anyway, on this side, sorry.
So for me, I noticed a few things, or I thought a few things about the game. First of all, who says defense can't be exciting? You had a 19-16 game that was pretty much a defensive struggle, was 9-6 or 6-3 at the half or something. And yet it was still pretty much must-watch television all the way through. And it wasn't like it was really bad offense. It was just defense playing quite well and offense just not being able to get going, but trying their best to do it and making the occasional play, but not sustaining anything because defenses just kept stepping up on both sides. Hamilton's defense played extremely well. I thought for where they were to hold Montreal to only 19 points.
Yes.
And I thought a couple things there. I couldn't understand why Verisek wasn't playing full time. There was like a bunch of times where I went, where is Verisek? Is he not playing at all today? And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. Is it maybe? And then it was like Casatonis looked like he wasn't playing full time. There was points in the game where he wasn't on the field. And I'm like, those are your 2 guys. You're rookie of the year and you're Canadian of the year, and you're not playing them full time. I couldn't figure out whether it was a ratio thing, whether it was what it was, but I just thought that was odd from the Ticats to do that neither of those guys were out there 100% of the time. Not that they look bad without them necessarily, but I just thought it was kind of strange that was done. And the other thing that I noticed prior to the game that I thought was, caused a suppressed giggle was that that I thought they did it really, really, what's the word I'm looking for? extravagant showing of how French they were. Like remember 2 years ago, all the controversy in the, Dequoy saying afterwards, shooting his mouth off, how he was disrespected and so on because they didn't have any French signage. They made sure the French sign was there. They made sure this anthem was sung in both languages. Every announcement was done in both languages. They were not letting that happen again. So I thought that was a suppressed giggle kind of moment. But yeah, it was a really well played game that kept you very interested throughout and until the final whistle when it came down. And then when Alexander's pulled up lame, there was some nervousness on the Montreal side, I'm sure. Some nervousness there, and there will be throughout this week unless they can get that under control.
Yes. They've already said he's playing. And and that they're going to have the trainers work with him. We'll talk about that maybe when we start talking about the game next week. I agree with just about everything that both of you said. There's a few things that I question a little bit about the game, but overall it was extremely, extremely entertaining. And what I don't understand, and this is why I kind of raised my eyebrows a bit when people were throwing around Munson's name to go to Toronto, where he's generally a good defensive coordinator, but you ended up in that when Montreal got the ball back, it was a little under a minute left, I think, after Hamilton had tied the game and they had that last drive coming. It's a tied game. 1 point wins it for them. If they can, and the way Maltos has been kicking, if they can get to the 45, maybe the 50, he might be able to kick it enough to at least get the rouge out of it or something. So you can't give up more than 20 yards at the most. And Munson runs a deep prevent zone and doesn't even cover the first 15 yards of the field. And that's nice and easy to march into field goal range. How you do that?
I think we can talk about that in game 2.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in game 2 too. But it's it's situational football. Like you said, the other game, I get it, but I've heard people say, these things start with a minute left and stuff like that. It's a little bit of a different situation there, but play your defense tighter. And if they go over your head and score on you, you've at least got 40 seconds to do something about it. Mm-hmm. When you start letting them dink and doink up to where they need to go, it's not the greatest thing. But I was glad to see that Rambo was wearing a Guardian cap out there. Every player that does that, I cheer for and encourage. I think it's a great thing.
Has he worn one all year? When I saw that, I was like,
I don't remember seeing him in one. This looked new to me.
Yeah.
He still was catching balls, guys, so you can do it.
Yep. I thought that Bell made a hell of a play on the touchdown to Bridges. So they were it was fairly close, I think, within about the 10-yard line or something. And the Alouettes blitz 2 linebackers basically up the strong side A gap, and Bell picked them up both. Took one and blocked him into the other one, and that gave Bo the chance to get that throw off. So that was a very nice play from there. I also thought that there was one drive where I think it was 4 plays in a row, they went to, is it Tice? I can never pronounce his name right for Montreal. A couple of running plays, a couple of passes on that. I think the second last drive for Montreal was good. And then 2 things. So they had mobile last week. Apparently this week it was 40 Creek is the whiskey, the official whiskey of the CFL. So it was on the ads and on the goalposts.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
and Mobile was still on the back. It'll be interesting to see if Mobile's on the back in the Grey Cup.
It will be.
Oddly enough, my husband said he went to a mobile gas station. They have CFL signage at the pumps.
Oh, good. Well, it's nice to see that somebody's doing it because
it's a good thing that way.
All the noise about Budweiser earlier in the season when that got signed, I've seen nothing from Budweiser, Bud Light all year.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that in a second with the other game too. But
and I bought some old Dutch chips with the football CFL.
Yes, apparently they did the kick to win thing too, and I didn't even see that. But no, it's 40 Creek might be a good whiskey. I used to like it when I was young and foolish, and then I tried it about 15 years later, and it didn't taste good at all. So maybe it's changed a bit because that's there. But yeah, they had that. At least the mobile signs part of the reason that they bugged me so much last week was on Montreal, they had them in their colors, the blue and the red and everything, and it just looked gaudy. The rest that I saw this week were all solid colors on the uniform, and I thought that was better. And did I have anything else? Oh, only one other thing, which of course, appealed to me. I actually saw a commercial. I normally skip right through them. Saw a commercial with Heinz flavored mayonnaises coming out, including smoky bacon. So Baconaise is back, baby. Just what my arteries need.
Yeah.
I could live on sriracha mayo alone.
Yes. Anyway, that's, I think, covers off everything I've got. Is there
we
anything
just
more?
need to talk about what Bo's doing next year.
Panel or football?
Panel or football?
Football.
I think we might be football.
Yeah. I would be very
But only
surprised.
with Hamilton. I can't see him wanting to go and restart anywhere else.
No.
No,
he doesn't need the money. I don't think he's chasing the money. I think they'll give him some more money, if not the big money. And the only thing that is going to motivate him now is breaking that drought. So
Yeah.
Please.
And he's happy with Milanovic. He is a free agent at the end of the season, but who knows? Yeah. And I'm sure you've heard the same reports I have that he says he's got to have discussions with his family, similar to what Cody was talking about. So we'll see if those two go. That could change the quarterback landscape in the CFL quite a bit. And then
absolutely.
If Saskatchewan wins next week, does Harris go on any further? So it could be a time when we need to bring some of those high-level draft picks out of the U.S. Get Curtis Rourke up here and El Guzman. Anyway, so that takes us to the...
I have one more thing about that game. I guess we could talk about it at any point, whether it be now or later when we do predictions, because it's the same point. I just wonder, and I came to me, and I just wonder, is Davis Alexander going to get an NFL tryout in the offseason?
Yeah.
He's won 13 in a row. If he wins, he's 26 years old. He's at the prime. He's shown everything that you can show. Does he at least get a tryout? It'll be interesting to see. Now, he's short. He's only 5'11", so that's a big difference. That's a hard nut for the NFL to get over. From everything I understand about NFL quarterbacks, they've got to be 6'3" or whatever. So else they just don't like him any shorter than that. So that might be what it is. And I'm not sure he has the arm strength necessarily that they want, but just based on his record and his age and where his leadership and stuff, I would think some team would at least be, and if his agent's got to be talking to them, and sending them tape. So maybe some team gives him a shot. And, if he gets a shot, he's got to take it. He's just got to at least take the opportunity to give it a go.
I'm wondering if they're worried about his hamstring.
That will play. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when Casey Printers went to the NFL and then had to come back?
Yeah. And got
that
broken
was
by
weird
the whole
one.
experience.
Yeah.
It has broken a few players.
Yeah.
Brooke
almost did.
Bo went and came back and swears it wasn't because of his, still to this day, he'll tell you he won that job in Minnesota, but they, again, NFL Network, Old Boys Network, just wasn't going to give a CFL quarterback the position. Flutie would say the same thing. I'm sure Strebler would say the same thing. And certainly Nathan says the same thing. They won the position, but just weren't given the job. So whether he gets an opportunity, I don't know. It's just a thought that came to me at this point in time that no one else has mentioned. And I thought, why not? I'll bring it up. Start a rumor. What the heck?
Yeah,
Sure.
start a rumor. I love it.
And I think it's a good point, but I do tend to agree with MJ. I think if I'm an NFL scout or an NFL front office looking at the whole story, I don't see there being high demand for teams to try and get him. And I think I might be saying, well, let's hold off a season and see how he heals up, how durable he is, because they've said that this has been with him since training camp. And I can see that with a hamstring. If you don't fix it.
Sure, but it doesn't cost them anything to sign him. That's the thing.
No.
Oh, for sure.
Or at least
they can give him a $50,000 or $100,000 signing bonus, and that's all it's going to cost them. It's worth it. And then they get him under their medical staff to work on the hamstring for 8 months before training camp. Yeah. It's worth it if they think it's worth it.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, you can definitely give them workouts And you can sign him without any signing bonus if he's willing to.
Yeah. If he's willing to, 100%.
Yes.
He's definitely got the attitude for NFL.
People keep saying, and I have to agree with it, he is very much like Bo Levi was when Bo Levi had won 11 out of 12 games.
Exactly. And that's when he got his shot. So that's the other thing I was saying. He's mirroring Bo all the way along. Is this the time when he mirrors him further and gets that shot in the NFL?
Yes, Montreal. Davis, you go down to the NFL for a year and Bo come back for a year, and then let's see how that plays out for the Tigers.
Yeah, and if that, and you're right. If he gets something down there, that's another team now that's going to be looking. So yeah, could be
McLeod Bethel Thompson, starter for the.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, there's going to be a starting spot for Trey somewhere.
There will be someday.
Okay, so that was the first game, and then we went into the second game, which was being played in a chilly stadium in Saskatchewan, -8, they said, at kickoff. It was obviously going to be running game was going to be a big part of this. It ended up BC 21, Saskatchewan 24. And I think everybody out there has heard about this, but I'm going to do this sort of backwards. I'm going to tell you how the game was won at the end, and then we'll go back and talk about the beginning of it, and then we'll come back and talk to it. But the end of the game was the story, because it was just bizarre. 2:30 left on the clock. It's BC 21, Saskatchewan 14, and Saskatchewan's got the ball on about the 5-yard line. They throw right to Schaefer Baker, and Harris underthrows him. They throw left to Schaefer Baker, and a good play from, I think it might have been Peters on the corner. I think it was Peters, knocks the ball out. So no touchdown on either of those. 2:40 left now. You're down by 7. And Coach Mace for Saskatchewan sends in the field goal team. Now, again, later I'll talk about my reactions to all this, but this is just the facts now. They kick the field goal. So now it is 1-17. They still need a touchdown. They kick off deep to BC and trust that BC, who's been flying high, by the way, and Nathan Rourke's been playing like his hair's on fire, incredible game. They give it back to him. They manage to get BC to run on first down for about 5 yards, and then they put heavy pressure on a second passing down. Nathan throws it away. Plan works. Yay, we get the ball back. There's over 2 minutes, or I think, at that point, there was still over 2 minutes left, or close to it. Saskatchewan gets the ball back. 2 and out. 3rd and 10 on about their own, somewhere around the 30. 1:40 left, and Coach Mace elects to punt rather than try the first down, which, again, did not seem conventional wisdom. They've got to hold the high-flying, beefy offense again. They do, including a play we can talk about more, but A.J. Allen with a fantastic play on second down to hold them. They get the punt back with 61 seconds left. The Riders use basically 49 of that to get down close into field goal position, and then throw a slant to Tommy Neal, who's the latest star in Saskatchewan and will be one for years now. Touchdown. Controversial catch, but I think everyone agrees it was a catch. 11 seconds left. They're ahead, 24-21, and there's time for a kickoff and BC to run a hook and ladder type play that doesn't go anywhere, and Saskatchewan wins the game. So that's how it ended. How it started was different, and we can run through that, but they both started very slow and picked up some speed. Anything about the earlier parts of the game that either of you two thought stood out or you'd like to talk about?
Well, I was surprised that BC immediately dropped 3 passes in a row that were wide open. And they talk a lot about, they had 9 2-and-outs in the game. Yeah, they were on the first 3 drives. They had,
And the last two.
and the last 2. It wasn't like they were going 2-and-out the entire game or anything like that. So I didn't think BC looked bad. And then it was interesting right after that, after the 3 guys had all dropped passes, on the next drives, Rourke went back to every one of those guys, and they all made really really good plays. So they settled down, and then they played pretty well throughout until those last few minutes of the game. And we can get back to those 3 minutes or where they're about, and I'll give my opinion about those separate.
Okay.
That's the early
yeah.
part of it.
Everyone was like saying that Rourke wouldn't be able to play. Go, oh, Rourke can't play in the cold. It's going to be Rourke's the issue. He can't. It turns out his receivers cannot play in the cold because those passes were just fine and they were just dropped. I don't know if they were cold or if they were nervous or what, but I'm glad everyone settled down. But those were some key missed opportunities for them in the first half.
Oh yeah, BC did not lose that game because Rourke underplayed.
No.
I don't think I don't know what his quarterback rating was when they start talking about these numbers, but I don't think you could have played a better game than he did. He was not missing passes. He was not putting the ball in trouble at all, even when he was under a lot of pressure, because that O-line was porous and let the Riders' defensive line on him with 4 or 5 all game, and he was still back there making people miss and getting out of where it looked like he was basically completely wrapped up by 3 or 4 Rider defensive linemen, and somehow he pops out of the pile again like he's done in the past. One of them he pops out and does another one of those shovel passes like he got to Hatcher that goes to Butler for about 25 yards at a key time. If he stays healthy, he is going to be something to watch for
That play was unbelievable. The way he changed his arm movement and everything at the last second and turned it around. That wasn't just like the two-handed shovel pass that he did, or chest pass that he did last week. Right? This was a completely different animal entirely, and it was even more amazing. That was incredible play. It really was. This game was different than the first game in that in the first game, to me, it felt like it was going to be a defensive struggle all the way. Like, never did I expect one team to blow that first game open. It just had that feel that it was good. But going into the half of this game, even, my wife is like, oh, another field goal late in game. And I'm like, yeah, but this one feels like one team could just blow it open in the second half. So it had that extra, those offenses you felt like were going to get going. And even though they never really exploded, they really did play very well. So it was slightly different kind of game, even though it was equally as close and kept you on the edge of your seat as the first game did right to the very end.
Right. Yeah. And sorry, did you have something to put in there?
Oh, no, it's just like, because once they settled down, like the Blinds had a 103-yard touchdown drive.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you just knew the offenses were moving, whereas in the first game, the offenses could not get anything going. But like, as you said, that wasn't because they were playing badly. It's just that the defenses were playing so well.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked this weekend because it was good defensive football. Sometimes you get low scoring games because the offenses are terrible. And that's a boring football to watch. These were all very good offenses. And yes, BC early on, the first 2 or 3 series, made some serious mistakes with their drops that they weren't, whatever it was, that was there. But from there on, there weren't a lot of huge mistakes by either team, just like in the earlier game. It was just that the defenses had the number for the offenses. And I thought what we thought, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and one of the things that I don't think enough people are talking about, because they're concentrating on those drops and the fact that BC went 2 and out on those drives because of, so did Saskatchewan. Yep. Saskatchewan went 2 and out on, I think, their first 2 drives or 3 drives as well. So it wasn't like they all took advantage of it and scored 2 touchdowns or something. Yeah, it was 6-3 or whatever it was at the half. Game did not get blown open by either team.
Which is wild because Harris was not rushed all night. He had all day to throw, that ball. That was, I couldn't believe it. I was like, Mike Benavides lulled me into thinking that he was competent.
No.
I bet, like, with the last few games, I was like, finally their defense. And then this game just.
All right. So there was TSN's moment for me was late in the game. I might have been in those last 3 minutes. And they showed Mark Mueller. And they talked about, Mark Mueller. And I looked at my wife and said, he's overrated. I think he's overrated. But then they immediately panned over to to Mike Benavides, and I just looked back at my wife and said, yeah, but he's ridiculously overrated. So this is the problem. And that's exactly what ended up happening. Was like,
Yeah.
because Mueller's offense did nothing different than they've done for 4 years, including all the time in Calgary. It's the same offense, dink and dunk. Don't do anything exciting. Maybe throw one in there, but make them when you can. And he's got the quarterback that can do it. He had the quarterback in Calgary that does that, but you're not going to get anything exciting out of it. And that's proven by the yardage that they had this on Saturday. But Benavides' defense, you knew that he was going to revert to the mean, which was lay way off. And why did he lay off on that last drive? The same thing that we were all freaking out about in the middle of the summer. He did it again, and he let them come down the field with too much time. They shouldn't have been able to do that.
My husband was like standing up and screaming about zone defense. Just screaming at the TV.
Well,
I felt so bad.
Yeah, well, when they completed that pass, I think it was to MLS, down to the 20 whatever yard line it was. I just got up. I just got up and just said, I can't believe Saskatchewan's going to win this game, and left the room. I was so angry. I was so angry at BC for losing that game. Losing that game, I was so angry.
Yeah.
I am convinced that Benavides forgot that Emilus and Schaefer-Baker were playing.
Yeah.
I am convinced he did not account for those two receivers
even
whatsoever.
The guy, even Suter was saying you don't play that kind of a defense. Come on. Like, if he's pointing it out, come on.
If even yes.
Yeah. Now I do think it's fair to say though that the weather did affect the game. It seemed more apparent for BC where they dropped those 3 or 4 passes early on. But Schaefer-Baker was definitely the target of choice for Harris in that game. And there were, I think, 3 or 4 that
he dropped a couple.
Yeah. He, they were contested catches or they were tougher things, but he was fighting it too. So every time they took a pass to him and it was in the air and I saw it going in that direction, I was going, oh! But whether it was the cold weather or whatnot, when they needed it, and probably, to me at least anyway, the second best play of that game was not the catch by Neal in the end zone, which was a nice, pretty little play. It was the one before that when they hit Myers down on about the 3 or 4 yard line and in between in double coverage and not the best pass in the world.
That's the play where I had to leave the room. I was so mad.
Yeah. Not the greatest pass in the world. And he reached behind him, got it, took the hit. That was impressive.
I feel like Rourke's gonna mark.
The play of the game was what you mentioned earlier, old man. That was the AJ Allen stuff in the field, because that was a good play call. I thought that was an excellent play call. And when I watched it full speed the first time, it was like, that hole's there. You could see that hole was there. It looked like he had the room. And then all of a sudden, he just got the lead blocker, which was Horvath, which is a big man, 230 or whatever he is. And he just got tossed aside like a rag doll. And then there was no hole left. That was incredible defensive play. Unbelievable defensive play for that. That was tremendous. Tremendous, because if they had got that first down, BC would have won the game. Absolutely, because they would have had the time to mark. They would have had 3 more downs and had it down, for another minute and no time left. So
and no timeout. Saskatchewan had used their timeout.
I thought that was the winning. To me, that was the winning play of the game. That stop.
Yeah. I thought that there was something, and I'm stealing from someone else, but I'll give them credit. On the 3-down-1 on podcast on Sunday, J.C. Abbott was talking about the fact that he coaches junior or minor ball. And he said, you can take a play like 2 weeks ago where in the BC Saskatchewan game where Rourke was almost sacked and scrambling, running around within the pocket, bouncing off things, and then flipped that pass to Hatcher, who somehow got his hands under it. He said, fantastic play, incredible for the fans, but as a coach, I can't do anything with that. that's just talent and amazingness. He said, the AJ Allen play, I can take that and play that to my team every day on this is how you shed a block and still keep yourself in position for a tackle. It was technically perfect. A lot of times if you're not paying close attention, it looks like guys just running around and bumping into each other out there. But there is technique on that stuff, and I was very impressed with that. Now, the big question everybody's asking, what did you think of the 2 times that Mace decided, okay, we're under 3 minutes, I'm going to give the ball away?
I thought they were the right decision both times. I thought they were the right decisions, particularly on the third and 10. You can't afford, that's just too far, and there's too much time left. And you've got the best defense, or what you consider the best defense in the league. You say, go get it back, boys. And they did. So I thought they were the right decisions. I, for some reason, had them down by 2 scores when they kicked that field goal, that they needed 2 scores to win. They needed in my mind, they needed a field goal anyways. So take it when you can get it. So, but my math might have been off. I don't know. But that's when I was watching it live. I was like, well, you need to get one. Just take it now while you can, because you're going to have to get one eventually. You might not get the opportunity again. So, and if you don't get the touchdown, you're screwed. So I thought again, but maybe my math was off. They were only down 7, as you say, in which case you might not have been the best idea.
I am not risk averse. I said Scott should have gone for it instead of kicking the field goal. I think Corey should have gone for it and not kicked the field goal. Okay. But the 3rd and 10, that's really a hard one to swallow. But when you're only a few yards and it's 3rd down and you're close, I think you just gotta. Yeah. You gotta do it.
Yeah. Well, I got to be honest here. I do, because we're doing this show here. You know, I talked last week about I thought Dickinson made a bad choice going for the touchdown rather than making sure he had the time for the field goal at the end of the half. So it's hypocritical of me to say don't criticize coaches. But that's kind of drawn out by the show itself. You know, they say sex appeal and hot takes sell, and I don't have one of them, so the other one I got to max out on. But my personal feeling in general is coaches know what's going on with their team. If a coach makes multiple bad decisions that are completely or seem indefensible, then you start getting on them. But any single decision, you don't know what the coach knows, so you trust it. Now, with that said, when he kicked that field goal, I wasn't cursing and yelling. My literal thought was, well, I'm not going to be that upset about losing because it was a hell of a game. I don't get what you're doing, coach, but 2nd year, whatever. We're 5 yards away. There's the tying touchdown. Take it. And he didn't. And I thought, okay, like I said, you shouldn't do that or anything. Just, I'm glad it was a good game. And then they stopped them, and that's amazing. And they came out and they went 2 and out again, and with 1:40 left. And yes, I know it's 10 yards now and you're in the middle of the field, but you don't have the time. And he punted it again, and quite literally, they started marching down the field. They got that drop from Schaefer or from Del Duncan Busby, and that's I'm going. And when they scored, I wasn't cheering or screaming or jumping. I was numb, and I was numb for about 5 or 10 minutes, just lying there going, "What the F just happened?" Because that's not football. You can't play that way. You can't make those calls and win. But he knew something about the team, and I've heard him say since then, they practiced those situations multiple times in the game, and he didn't look like he was scratching his head and going, what do we do now? His outward appearance was, yep, this is the plan. So I won't call it a wrong call, but I will say, I think if you talk to coaches and they're honest, you might find 1 or 2 others in pro sports, pro football, that say, yeah, I might have done that. There's a meme running around apparently about Randy Moss and a wheelbarrow that people are using now, but I won't go into that. I'll just say I don't quite understand how Coach Mace doesn't walk bow-legged, because what it took to make those calls.
I also think he knew who he was coaching again. He knew what, like to some extent, you not only know your team, you'd have to know the opposite team. You have to know their tendencies. And he probably felt that, or they kind of knew that that's what Benavides was going to go to the prevent shell defense, and they were going to allow them to get close enough and take another shot. So it was up to his defense. And again, he has that faith in his defense to get the ball back. And I will only say that the last 3 minutes of that game really just reinforced and didn't reinforce, but reminded me of how much I dislike the Riders. It just because I had forgotten how much I disliked the Riders. Over the course of the season, I kind of just let them get away with it. And then that last 3 minutes, I was furious that BC allowed them to win that game. And BC's not even my team. I don't even care about BC. So it just was total confirmation of my dislike for the Riders.
Yeah. And it may be confirmation bias on my part, because I remember things more with the Riders, but when that was after that happened, I said to the goddess here, one thing about the Riders, when they get in the playoffs, they sometimes win and they sometimes lose, but it's rarely a game you walk away from and go, well, that was okay, and forget about it. It's either something like this or the 13th man or the kick back in 89. There's a legend to all the games. Yeah, it was
but it was a great game. It was a great game, and they were full credit for the win. They did everything that they needed to do to win. Full credit for the win. They played extremely well, both sides of the ball, all three areas. While their returns weren't great, again, special teams weren't terrific, and on either side of that game. Although I think BC's got 7-7 as he's a pretty good returner. I think they've got that figured out now, which they've had some problems with for the last few years. So that's good going forward for them.
I hope I hope Rourke's marching into Buck Pierce's office to demand that Benavides resign, like that he's out for next year.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be. Sevens McGee is a good returner, and they've got Robert Carter Jr., who showed last week that he's a good off returner too. So they're set there. They need to figure out what they're doing with their defense. They need to figure out what they're doing with their O-line, because frankly, with any quarterback other than Nathan Rourke, probably would have got killed in that game. But
Nathan's too expensive to let them just run him over every game.
Yeah. Well, that's how Mike Riley got his career ended, by going there for 2 seasons of you're paying for a quarterback and got nobody else.
But nobody's been hit like Mike Riley in those days.
No, that was worse than this year.
That was worse. That was worse than Fajardo in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And that's something, because that was
really
horrible.
Bad, yes, but I have a feeling that what I saw this year, Mike Riley was mobile, but he was also in his mid to late 30s, or mid 30s at least, when he was playing there. If he'd been behind this line, he might have got beaten up just as bad. I think a lot of what saved them from not giving up a lot of sacks was what Nathan Rourke can do back there.
Yeah. Well, they were missing DJ Allen again, the guy that they signed out of Toronto, or traded for out of Toronto. Yeah. Were they also missing Broxton, or did he play?
Broxton played, as far as I know anyway. Yeah, he was in, but Allen was out again. And frankly, the free agent list that came out, they're all free agents anyway. So it might be a good time to say, okay, well, off you go and let's restock if you can find them. It's becoming a trend. Bring in more American linemen and look to put your Canadians in somewhere else. It was 3 of the 4 teams in these finals were playing multiple American linemen. Montreal and BC both had 3, and Saskatchewan played 4. The only Canadian Saskatchewan left in was Furland. So, maybe that's the way to go. Also, before the game, did either of you watch the pregame and see the feature on A.J. Allen playing chess?
No.
I just saw a little highlight of it.
Yeah. If you've got it recorded, or if you get a chance to pick it up on YouTube anywhere, go get it. It was one of the most adorable things. They started out talking about he's a bright guy and why he does so well at football, and he's got into chess and playing against people on the internet. He's doing this on his phone all the time. And they say I don't know what chess rankings are, but they say he's ranked at 900, so a lot of the people in the team don't want to play him. So as a feature, TSN got him and took him out and played against members of the Queen City Chess Club. And these were all kids that looked like they were about 7 till, I think the oldest one that was real good was about 14. But they were all young kids. They all had ratings above him. They were all beating him. And they were the kids were so adorable because they didn't know how adorable they were being. He'd go and he'd make a move, and there's the one kid playing and the other 4 there, and there 2 or 3 of them on the bench going, talking to each other about what he did or something. And there was even one moment where he said, I think a kid said to him, you're checkmated. The kid's not playing. He's you're checkmate in 2. And Alan says, I think 3. And the kid says, check the tape.
Well,
so if you get a chance to go back, it's just, of all those little features they do, it was just adorable. And seeing him interacting with these kids, and it was the perfect way to set up for a game.
I would much rather watch that than the AI slop that they put out.
Yes.
Oh, stop it, TSN. Montreal did a whole little clip of the players. They asked different players on the team what's their favorite trash talk that Davis does. And they were trying to say things. I would rather watch things like that in the chess than watch AI nonsense.
Yeah, I'm not even big on those features usually. That one works so well, but I agree with that AI that they're doing. It's the brand new toy, and they got to play with it.
I think you
Anyone
should
who
have to
thinks
put
that adds to a broadcast.
I think you should have to put how much water and electricity got used to make that AI nonsense.
Well, that's a very valid point, and we could spend a long time here talking about the several of those things, and I could talk about the fact I'm extremely impressed that my province has said we're certainly not taking any more crypto mining things, and if anybody wants to set up a data center, they don't get any special favors there. Other people are ahead of them for the power and the water, and they can bid on what's available. So I like that. But over and above that, it doesn't look smart. It looks crappy. It looks cheap. And, if you want to do something like that, heck, pay someone and do a claymation animation of it or something that actually takes some talent. My thought. Anyway, I am understandably very happy and waiting to see how the stuff goes when we start talking about the next little bit here. Oh. Any thoughts on the weekend, the season, or anything before we go on to the predictions?
I just want to say the old Dutch kick for a million guy had to kick that ball with his winter boots on. I felt so bad.
Did they even show that on halftime, or was that even part of the broadcast?
No, okay. They showed a quick little clip of it. Just a quick clip. They made just a quick little clip, and he had his boots on, and he shanked it 15 yards.
Yeah, apparently it went almost nowhere. But he got a lot of prizes.
Yes, he did.
Yes, and again, we're out late enough. Everybody else released early this week, so I've heard a lot of the podcasts. And Sheldon from 2 and Out was at the game and saying the guy came out and he went, "What, a BC Lion fan?" And then realized, oh no, it's the old Dutch jersey they have on him, which I guess is very close to the Lion colors. Anyway, anything else because we're going to talk the predictions here. We'll have the last final thoughts in, but from there, the next thing we'll be talking about is who the Grey Cup champion is when we reconvene next week. Let me say here before we lose everybody, 2 things. First of all, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe right now so that you don't lose us in the off season, because I know how much you love our melodious voices and how much we lull you into a calm, relaxed state and get ready for sleep. So hit that subscribe and notification button right there now. And secondly, we do care about our audience. We understand that once the Grey Cup is over, you're only going to have so long that you really want to talk about it. So normally we tape on Tuesday nights and release on Wednesday. For you, special for the fans, next week we're taping Monday night and releasing on Tuesday. And that's just because we love you so much. Don't let anyone tell you the rumor that it could be because one of us has to be unavailable Tuesday night. And so we're going early. No, 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 no. This is purely our dedication to you, the fans. And after that, moving on, who picks first on the predictions? Who talks about it first? I can if you want, but I'm more than willing to let the two of you go through the Grey Cup game first. What would you like?
Oh, it's your team. Off you go.
Okay. Well, I did a little bit more work on this than I normally do. Normally I go with just sort of off the top of my head and what have I seen and what makes sense. But I went and looked at it, and what I saw was, well, frankly, I didn't compare the offenses too much because it's not necessarily fair because Montreal's totals for the season were lower because they didn't have Davis Alexander for a big chunk of the games. So I thought I won't do that, but the defense is still coming, and the defenses are almost dead even. Sacks, Montreal at 45, Saskatchewan 43. Tackles for a loss, 20 for Montreal, 27 for Saskatchewan. Forced fumbles, 17-15. Fumbles recovered, 12 and 9. Interceptions, there was a bit of a gap here, but 24 and 18 for Saskatchewan. Pick sixes, they both got 3. Their turnover ratio, they were both at +8. Points off turnovers. Again, Montreal with 100, Saskatchewan with 87. And penalties, they were 3rd and 4th in penalties that they took. Montreal took 112. Saskatchewan took 124. So the teams are so similar in so many ways. You look at the Saskatchewan offense, their stats are 3 or 4 places above Montreal, but that's explainable by the season. You look at the games they played, Saskatchewan went into Montreal and blew them up pretty good with MBT playing. Montreal came back to Saskatchewan with MBT in and beat them by, I forget what it was, like 41-30 something, but they scored, if I remember right, like 28 or 35 points against Kefala XMA, and the rest of the team gave up 7 because it was just a bad backfield in that game. So you can't take anything away from any of that. It's going to be cooler. They're saying about 2 degrees at kickoff. They both can run the ball, despite the fact Montreal looked like they couldn't run the ball. They both can. Stevie Scott was very important to them on the weekend. So you're going to have AJ going there and Scott and Tights for Montreal, which is also important because Saskatchewan hasn't given up a lot of running yards to the style of running back that Stevie Scott III is. He's a big back. He'll run up the middle and get you your 10, 12, 15 yards. And they've been good against that. Where they've been hurt is running backs with speed. And that's where Tights comes in more. Whereas the Montreal defense was a little more lax against the run. They were a bit further down. They didn't give up a lot of big plays other than as well to Greg Bell, basically, who's got a bit of speed there too, but they were just giving up more. So I think there may be a bit of an advantage with AJ there, being able to run that a little bit better than Bell. I think that it's going to be, again, a close game. I think that if Davis Alexander is 100%, it changes things a bit, but I still take Saskatchewan in that situation because I do think that something about their experience, I've talked about it before. I said workmanlike, which is almost seems like it's an insult, but it's not like that. I'm sitting there trying to think what I'm seeing from this season, and it really seems like it's just they know what they're doing. They have a plan. They're building the wall. It's one brick at a time, and it's not always pretty. And if we drop a brick and it goes bad, well, we'll just pick it up and go. And if we make a mistake and we were offline there and I got to strip out 2 rows, they go back and do it. But they're just building that wall. And they have the plan, and it's just what they keep doing. And it seems like they always have the answer for it. So given that, and influenced somewhat by the fact that Davis Alexander has a bad hamstring, and he's been playing with it all season, yes. But the thing with a hamstring is, I know because I've had them, you can do so much with them, but you can't gut it through and just freeze it and play through the pain. If you've got a hamstring that's not ready to go, it won't support your weight when you start pushing hard on it. And so given all of those things, I think I think Saskatchewan by between a field goal and a touchdown. Somewhere 4 to 6 points. That'll be my prediction. And like I said, a lot more long-winded than usual, but I wanted to try and get this, not just go with the fan idea. I wanted to try and give the best impartial, judgmental view I could of it. And that's me. I'm awaiting rebuttals or other things.
2 things. I made my prediction earlier in the season, as we said earlier in the show, and I'll still stand by it. This team's not going to win. I don't care. I don't believe in Trevor Harris. I've never believed in Trevor Harris, and I still don't believe in Trevor Harris. Until he wins, I don't believe in him. Simple as that. So I'm taking Montreal with one caveat, and that's Davis Alexander. This game depends on Davis Alexander more than anything else. The rest of the teams be away. Because if he's playing and he's playing at a even 90% level, he's going to win this game. If he's not, then Saskatchewan's going to win this game with or without Trevor Harris. They could put Jake Mayer in and win this game. So that's how I feel about it. It's Davis Alexander or bust for Montreal. And without Davis Alexander, it's Saskatchewan easy walkthrough.
All right. Last tarot of the year, guys. So I asked for so I asked for 2 things, like vibe check and key to winning. So Ryder's vibe check is the Fool, which is trust your gut, listen to your heart, and believe in yourself. Their key to winning is the Magician, which is be creative and use all the tools in your toolbox. Montreal vibe is the Wheel of Fortune, which is you can choose to complain or you can choose to adapt. So their key to winning is the Death card, which is let go of what isn't serving you to make room for opportunities. And the outcome of this game, I just asked quickly the outcome, like what the key to the outcome is, and that's the Tower card. And it's existing situation will be suddenly and drastically overturned. So take that as you will.
Mm-hmm.
I think, look at Montreal. I think if you stack up their special teams, Montreal is on top for me. I think their defense is better. And most importantly, they have CFL magic. And I would bet on Davis Alexander playing with a 30% hamstring on the field than anyone else. And as long as he's on that field, whether he's hobbling around in a pocket, it doesn't matter. If he's on that field, he is the vibe. And if he's on, I think they're going to win.
All right. So it's 2 against 1 here. We'll see how this all plays out. I will respond to a couple of things there. The way everybody's been all on top of Brett Lowther for the last half of the season for his bad streak there, I thought it was very appropriate and encouraging that he went 3 for 3, and White, who is apparently the best kicker, best kicking average still out there, managed to miss the one and doink it off the goalpost there. So that felt better. I feel better about Lowther going into the game, but I really think that Saskatchewan's got, if they have a weak point in this game, it's not going to be the field goal kicking. It's going to be their punting. Because the only thing I can think of is that this kid they brought in, Merkel, must be a much better holder for Lowther. Because I think he's missed once since this kid's been holding for him, whereas with Couch in there, he was missing a bunch. And that's the only thing that explains it. Because this kid he put 2 punts out inside the 5-yard line. It looked fantastic, but he's kicking is like a water sprinkler. It's over wherever. He shanked 2 outside, and we're lucky that they didn't make it to the sideline before they went out of bounds. If he gets a deep kick in, generally, he puts it right down the middle of the field so the returner's got anywhere he wants to go for a return. That's the part that worries me the most.
Santos Diaz really gets a lot of props on special teams, rightfully so. Great. He is, but their punter, Zima, is an Aussie, and those Aussie punters, I think it's hard. They're a wild card. And I think if it comes down to special teams and it comes down to playmaking like that, I think Saskatchewan's going to have a tough go.
I think for whatever it's worth, Montreal has a slight advantage in the field goal kicking. I would give them that. hopefully Lowther plays well. Punting, they have a big advantage. The returners, to me, frankly, they're about a wash, and so is the cover teams. Both of them had good cover teams that didn't give up a lot of yards this year. And if you feel like jumping in and opposing me on any of this, you can. Running backs, I think Saskatchewan has the edge. Quarterbacks, it will depend. If Alexander is effective, he's younger and he's a better quarterback than Harris, so I'd give them the edge there. I think the receiving groups are basically a wash. The O-lines are maybe in favor of Saskatchewan with Tate in there, but only slightly. D-lines are a wash. Linebackers, Montreal's got themselves a slight edge, and DBs are very close to a wash with possibly, it's hard to say. Overall, Montreal got more interceptions, but there's been a couple of ball hawks on Saskatchewan. So that's it. They're so close down the line looking at the teams, and there's so much. I said last week, defense wins championships, and that's what we're seeing. Teams that have defenses that win championships and offenses that are not going to put up a consistent 35 to 50 points a game, but are going to do enough to win with those defenses. So should be a hell of a game.
I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be another game like we saw these two games over the past weekend. That if either team goes beyond 25 points, I'll be surprised. Yeah. I think it's going to, it's going to both be like much like the Saskatchewan BC 24-21, 25-22, 25-21, that type of game. I don't see it being much higher scoring than that. But close and tight. I do believe it's going to be a close game, and I think it's going to be a really, really well played game and a really, really good game when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I think so. I don't generally check the numbers for gambling in that, but I may look at what the over is on this game, just because I'd be surprised if it's more than 43 to 45. And all season, what I've seen is most of them are up around 50 and higher. But yeah, it's going to be something. Now we just have to spend another 4 or 5 days anticipating. Some of us more than others.
Isn't there like a news blackout now too? So now we can't have any more exciting drama.
Yeah, I don't know.
No drama till Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm told. I've heard two things. I've heard that Stuart Johnson is supposed to be addressing the media and taking questions on Friday, and I've heard that they're canceling that. I haven't seen that officially, but it could be.
Yeah, my dad told me that tonight.
I heard what I heard they've canceled is the meet the fans, the question and answers direct with the fans, the commissioner with the fans. They've canceled that. The State of the League address with the press, as far as I know, is still on Friday. So that'll be. I think
that they're still doing the meet the commissioner, but now it's like a select group of fans that are quote unquote random selection. I'm like, that is random selection.
Yeah, right.
That's obviously they do not want to.
We weren't invited. It's so weird.
Yeah. Yes. I never thought about this during the games, but did you guys hear the talk about Alexander's speech to the team before the game?
Oh, yeah, about how Bo stood over them after he did his run-in.
This is
what I tell you. They have an intangible.
Yeah.
They are petty and they are mean. They are sassy.
I know. That's the thing, is that to me, that's kind of in some ways what I was talking about the differences between the two. You've got a team that's been up and down depending on their quarterback, very dependent on the quarterback out there. When he's in, are, like you said, cocky and all over it, and they play extremely well. But it's a team that's driven like that and driven by controlled emotion, but emotion, being on top of it. And this whole speech, he talked about what Hamilton had done to insult them in the games earlier this season. And I guess there was a lot of the F-bombs in it. But, I remember Bo standing over a defender after he scored a touchdown. And I remember somebody else doing this dirty play. And I guess it really got them pumped up. So you've got that. And then the other side is, like I said, it's just Saskatchewan it just feels like it's more of a plan. I don't know how to say that they know what they're going to do. It'll either work or it won't. Whereas with Montreal, there is going to be a degree of Where do we improvise and how well do we do on that? And that will make the difference in the game. It's the only time, frankly, the only time other than this last game where they came down with the minute left and scored, the only time we've seen Saskatchewan in a position like that this season, they've been up so much that either it's usually like they managed to salt it away without too much drama, or where they've lost, it's been big enough. The only other time was that Edmonton game where they suddenly had to make a big playoff drive, and they came down and scored in under a minute there too, and then missed the 2-pointer to lose the game. So it's not like it's a team that's not capable of turning it on and really upping the level of it. It's just not how they play. They play that ball control, run the ball, like you said, dink and doink when the opportunities come, go over top, but keep the other team off the field. So can Alexander, is he healthy enough, and can he keep, that'll be a big key to it. Can he keep Montreal on the field? And if they let Saskatchewan walk away from this with like a 12 or 15 minute time of advantage in the game, I think that there's no question Saskatchewan wins. But
or
if
they
Davis
let them
can
have
keep,
12 to 15 minutes, but then they're going to do some big play, and Austin Mack's going to be halfway down
Yeah.
the field, and they're going to score a touchdown in like under a minute, and it doesn't
Yes.
matter that you had the ball for 12 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't right then, but it
Yeah.
matters later when you're in the fourth quarter and the defenses have been out there for that long. So
Maybe.
Yeah, no, I think
Well,
to some extent, that's the same concern you had this past weekend with Rourke and BC's offense. Could you control the offense long enough? And they did. Their defense is very, very good. And so I think they will be able to control Alexander, but I don't know whether they control him enough. And I think Montreal's defense is also better. You talked a lot earlier about how Montreal's defense is statistically very similar in a lot of categories to Saskatchewan's, except one of the differences is Saskatchewan had their starting quarterback other than one game for the entire year. Montreal's defense was trying to plug a hole for like a rotating cast of horrible quarterbacks for 8 games. No wonder their defense, for their stats to even be that good, are amazing. I look at the stats of Montreal's defense with Davis Alexander as compared to games without Davis Alexander, and I bet you they're a lot better because the offense is moving the ball and controlling some of that clock, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think you can necessarily take those statistics that you used earlier about the two defenses being very similar and count on that being true. So it's going to be a very interesting game. It's going to be a very, very interesting game. I think it's one of the better. I think it's one of the better matchups we've had in a long time, honestly.
the Riders better hope there's enough French signage so Dequoy doesn't Hulk out.
yeah. 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 Well, and the thing is, GT, to your point about the defenses, I take the point and I agree with it that their defense was playing under tougher conditions there. What I would disagree with is I don't think that you would find that much difference in their defensive stats in those games, because even when they were having to cover for an offense that was not doing anything, that defense was good enough. They didn't wear out the way I've seen other teams do that. They were still like, I'd have to check the record at what the most points they allowed in the season is, but I don't think it's up in like the 45 or 50. I think if you check, they probably are in their highest points against is probably somewhere in the low 30s off the top of my head.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, so that's not taking away from your point. It's maybe reinforcing it, that they are good enough that even without the offense out there, they just did not miss a beat that much. So how much better would they have been if they had less time on they could be considerably ahead in a lot of these statistical races. I think that, with all this stuff we're talking about, I think Saskatchewan could outpossess Montreal, say 33 minutes to 26, 27, and still win, and Montreal would still win the game. I think if it starts getting up to where it's, 40 to 20, that's when it'll start.
Yeah. I don't think anybody can overcome that kind of time difference.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, predictions are in.
Yep.
Stuff is set. and I have 6% left on this charge on this phone.
Okay.
So
Okay, you're done.
either I'm going to say goodnight or we're all going to say goodnight.
Okay. Well, that's what we're going to do then. We're going to get out of here. Oh, well, we're already over 2 hours. I didn't think we'd get
Yeah,
anywhere near
we're-
that. Going to be some editing to do. Okay. So here we go then. That's pretty much it overall. We're going to finish up. Where can folks find you and what are your final thoughts? We'll start with MJ here.
Oh, yes. Well, you can find me on Blue Sky at Sports and Plants. I will be cheering for Maltose and air horns this weekend.
And you can find me at or on Blue Sky at GT Barnum. And I'll be there. I may even post a comment or two during the game, but you know what my thoughts are. We'll talk to you after the game.
Okay, sounds good. And for myself, I figure there's going to be two alternatives next week. Either I'm going to be the most obnoxious person you ever saw and you won't want to be anywhere near this podcast, or we'll have MJ and GT carrying it while I sob quietly in the background and just play engineer. So anyway, I agree with a lot of what's been said here today, and I do think one thing that we've got going for us all is you never know, but this has the markings of what could be an incredible Grey Cup. You've got two teams that both have played very well. They were clearly the two best teams in the league over the entire season.
Yep.
With
Absolutely.
the consistency in that. You've got one team that's going to bring in the Montreal and Quebec audience, so we'll see high numbers, because when they get involved, that they can sometimes almost match what TSN has. You've got TSN numbers that are going to be very high because all the Rider fans are going to be tuning in, and all the non-Rider fans, which is everyone else who has any interest in the CFL, are going to be tuning in, hoping to enjoy the best Schadenfreude they've ever had and see a Montreal victory. So it's going to be heavy. It's going to be intense. I am really kind of sorry I didn't plan to go to this one, but so it is.
Hey, and don't forget all those MGK fans are going to be watching too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's right. GT, how could we forget?
Whatever. Yeah. All right. That's a good way to end. Until next week, for GT and MJ, this is Old Man saying, get the hell off my lawn.